Hi, my name is McKenzie Marshall, and this year in ISM I chose to study editing and journalism. One may ask why we need editing. The authors do most of the work, right? They make the world in their heads and with their own imagination. While this is true, editors turn trash into treasure. They make the author's ideas into something cohesive and understandable for the audience. And most importantly, editing can save lives. It goes from let's eat grandma to let's eat comma grandma. No one wants to eat grandma. Okay, next, just a little bit about me. I am a musical theater fanatic, and I also play piano. I love to read, obviously, and friends, dogs, and family are 3 priorities in my life, not necessarily in that order. Those 2 dogs right there, that's Chance and Macy, and I also have another little one, but she wouldn't stay still for the picture. And then we have my little brother in the bottom left named Grant. He's like my best friend. I don't know what that says about me, but he's pretty cool. And my bookshelf in the bottom right, that's my pride and joy. First off, I just wanted to share my mission for my journey in ISM this year. My mission in ISM is to witness and experience the editing and publishing process from an expert who has a similar passion for the written word. I want to demonstrate reading's ability to change lives through a credible, well-produced documentary. Before we delve into how I will accomplish this goal, here's a little background on why I chose editing in the first place. Editing can affect lives by helping books reach their highest potential. Symptoms of a poorly edited book include an underdeveloped plot and characters and an excess of grammatical errors. The overall message of a book can be masked by a lack of editing, limiting its audience and how many people it can have an impact on. If you imagine if Harry Potter wasn't sufficiently edited and how many people it couldn't have impacted because of grammatical errors or poor characters, then you can imagine how different our world would be today. Editors also interact with authors and they reach out to different audiences. I myself am a people person, and interaction keeps me engaged on the task at hand. I like to bounce ideas off of others, and I find that 2 minds are much more efficient than just 1 mind. The editor also has say in the entire publication process, from collaborating with the author on writing the manuscript and to negotiating movie rights. And so as an editor, I would love to be the author's confidant throughout the entire process. Next, we have the interview process. Although a little nerve-wracking at first, I learned a lot in these meetings with the professionals. First, we had Glenn Yeffeth. That's a tongue twister. He started his own publishing company called Ben Bella Books, named after his 2 kids, Ben and Bella, and it specializes in science fiction. Even though I am not particularly a fan of science fiction, it was still really cool to learn from someone who has started their own publishing company. He told it to me straight. He said the editing is long hours, it's constant deadlines, and this is a verbatim quote, "It's a lot like school." This at first made me very apprehensive about going into editing. I don't want to spend any more time in a classroom than I have to, but Kendall Lynn, my next interview, solidified my determination to study editing. Kendall Lynn was the chosen one, or my mentor. Anybody catch that Harry Potter reference? Anyway, okay, she is the managing editor at Henry Press, and Henry Press specializes in chick lit and mystery. I had the opportunity to work with her associates as well. Their names are Aaron and Rachel, and they're all very cool, they're all very relaxed, and when I first walked into that interview, I was super nervous, but basically it transitioned from a super strict business interview to like 4 fangirls all talking about books and like discussing our passion, which was really cool. I learned that even though they've been in that business for, like, Kendall's been in the business for 10 years, her passion for books hasn't dwindled over time. Next, I interviewed Anna Davis, who also works for Henry Press, but she's part-time because she's writing her own book. That comes out February 6th. It's science fiction. I don't know the title, but I'll get back to you with that. She gave me the author's perspective on editing, and we discussed how each writer is different. Some can self-publish, while others need the guidance of a publishing company. She also discussed how her editor, who she originally hired for her book, was super extreme, and I learned how important it is to maintain a healthy, respectful relationship between the editor and the author. She couldn't work with that editor anymore because she overstepped boundaries and tried to change Anna's ideas and Anna's work. I will get to Dr. Lana Sloan in the journalism part of this presentation. And last we have Erin Jewell. A lot of you might have had Mrs. Jewell for your GT teacher in 6th or 7th grade. I'm not really sure if y'all probably went to Pioneer, but she's a DT teacher at Hunt Middle School, and she stressed the importance of being flexible between genres, as preferences can hinder job opportunities. If you were to go, like, after your internship at a big publishing company, you're going to have an entry-level job. And that entry-level job, you're not going to be able to pick and choose what genres you want to edit. You're going to be given a task, and you're going to be able to execute that task at the best of your ability. But if you've only been editing fiction for the past however many years you've been studying publishing, you're obviously not going to be able to execute that task very well. She encouraged me to search outside of the popular reads. She's quoted this famous quote. She said, if we only read the books everyone else is reading, you're only thinking what everybody else is thinking. Of course, outside of my interviews, I did additional research. Some of my research questions include, can I specify which genres I edit? How large is the editor's sphere of influence outside the publishing of the book? How competitive is this field, and are there any training programs I can partake in to increase my chances of success? I was able to answer these questions in my research assessments, and I learned that a broad appreciation for all genres is important, as I discussed in my interview with Ms. Jewell. I learned that inside large, broad publishing companies, there are individual houses that will specify which genre. So inside Bloomsbury, they have a children's book small house, and inside Penguin House, they have Random House, and there will be a science fiction little house, and there will be a historical fiction and a biography, and people will be hired into those little houses based on their experience and on what their preferences lie, where the preferences lie. The field is extremely competitive, and internships are very important. Internships are more popular in the UK, but they can be found in the US as well. To be a sufficient editor, you have to be aware of cultural and social trends. This can include, right now, dystopian books are popular. You have the Hunger Games and you have the Divergent series. Dystopian means it's after the apocalypse, or after the world is ending, and the author imagines how the world will change. That's very popular right now. And as an editor, I would want to propose to my publishing company books that would be popular at the time. Speaking of proposals, an editor will gather projected sales, income, audience, and success of a book. They'll predict all of those statistics, and then they'll bring it to the board of directors, in which they try to convince the publishing company to take on an author that they're vouching for. Editors have a wide sphere of influence. They are there from the very beginning to the very end, and they often become the author's confidant. And genre preferences can depend on economy, which I thought this was really cool. So right now, the economy is okay, but it could be better, and people prefer to read historical fiction because they're going back in a time when maybe the economy was better. And it's increased by the fact that it's fiction, and so the authors imagine it even better than it was. And so they don't have to think about their current economical problems. They can go back where they don't have to deal with it anymore. Escape from reality. Because sticking to one topic seemed like not enough of a time commitment, I am also including aspects of journalism in my study this year. I love the idea of improving books to impact a wider audience, but I also seek spontaneity and adventure in my career. Journalism is fast-paced, it's spontaneous, and it's active. There's a lot of traveling involved, and it also includes my passion for current events. I love to keep up with the world around me, and I love to know what's going on, and journalism is a lot about that. You get to write for CNN or Fox, and you get to learn what's happening outside of countries other than this one. Journalism also gives you a lot of experience. You learn how other societies work and how other cultures work. And after a career in journalism, you can pretty much go anywhere. Furthermore, my interest in journalism was sparked by my interview with Dr. Sloan. Dr. Lana Sloan was a journalist as the field was first growing. She told me stories about how her and her friends would go around the world and travel, and that was a big deal back then, to be able to go all the world as a young 20-year-old girl and experience so many things. And a lot of her friends had to drop out of the field because they couldn't keep up with the constant evolving technology. Journalists must be an instant expert. This is a verbatim quote as well. She said that you must have a PhD in whatever field that you're discussing that day. You can't shy away from something because you don't think that you'd be good at it. Just because you're not interested in medicine doesn't mean that you will get to choose what stories you do about medicine. You may be forced to talk about a new surgery even though you have no idea how to cut someone open. Journalism is a youthful career, and it requires confidence with many topics. She ended the interview with this last quote that made me really reassured that this is what I wanted to do. She said, the idea that an English major is useless is void. If you can read and write proficiently, you're set for any job. One may ask how I'm going to include both topics for my original work / final project. I plan to write a documentary. I will interview authors, editors, non-readers, and bookworms, and I will discuss how reading can change your life. This also includes my passion for movie production, and I'm really excited to see how this documentary will finish and will be produced in May. This leads us into my original work. My original work is a documentary script called Reading in Chill, ? It is a playoff of the words Netflix and chill. It's about how picking up a book can change your life. And it discusses the benefits of reading, medically, entertainment-wise, and education-wise. I have a bunch of different chapters, and they all discuss each a different aspect of reading that is better than any other entertainment source. It's organized like a book. It has a prologue, chapters, and then an epilogue. For my original work, I had to first research how a legitimate movie script was written and watch other documentaries so I could get a better idea of the style of my individual documentary. The documentary chapters include, first, the prologue. I'm converting a binge watcher to a binge reader. This is going to be focused on my friend Abby. She is a addicted Netflix watcher. She has 12 different shows that she refuses to miss every single week. And I've been trying to convince her to read a book for the past 5 years, and she will not budge. So the prologue and the epilogue are going to be, the prologue is going to be her addiction to TV and me trying to attempt to get her to watch or to read a book, and then the epilogue is going to be her opinion on the book after and how she enjoyed it, if she will continue reading versus watching TV. So Chapter 1 is called Binge Watching versus Binge Reading. It compares the opinions of all ages on the entertainment value of reading versus watching TV, and it discusses the medical advantages of reading and the disadvantages of watching TV. I have a pediatrician that I'm interviewing, and he will discuss the medical side, and then I'm also going to Barnes & Noble. I'm going to get their perspective, and I'm going to interview students around the school, and then I'm also going to the library. Chapter 2 is called The Power of the Fandom. Nerds are no longer socially incapable. Reading is bringing people together, and it's providing a community. Nerds are no longer the kids that sit alone at the lunch table in the corner of the room with their tray untouched and their nose in a book. They have people that they consider friends that love the same things they do. And to incorporate this, I'm going to interview the YA book club at the Frisco Public Library. Chapter 3 is called Bookworm Breeds, and it discusses the differences and preferences between each reader and what type of books they like. Each reader has an individual experience. No matter how boring reading seems to be, each reader is taken on a different journey and has a different story to tell after every book they read. Chapter 4 is called Always, yet another Harry Potter reference, and this is the conclusion. It sums up the major points for my documentary, and it basically brings it all together and hits you with the point of the documentary. Last, we have the epilogue. It discusses Abby's opinion on the book, how she enjoyed it, and if she will continue reading. Improvements. So I have not had many mentor visits yet, but the one that I did have, we discussed improvements for my documentary and how I could work on it and make it more hard-hitting. My mentor suggested that I talk about reading's other benefits. I'm not going to directly compare it to watching a TV show each segment. Instead, I'm going to make the overall message clear, how reading changes lives for the better, not just compared to watching TV. I'm going to focus on the younger generations. And I plan to, in order to do this, I plan to add a chapter interviewing kindergarten and pre-K teachers, discussing the learning differences between children who have been taught to read at home versus those who learn later on at school. I'm going to interview the valedictorian and salutatorian of this class, and I'm going to ask them if they read as a child and how it helped them become academically successful. This idea was stemmed from my mentor because she said another message from my documentary could be how kids who read at an early age become valedictorian when they grow up. And although this message is not strictly true, I could still interview the valedictorian and salutatorians and see if reading had any impact on their academic success. I'm also going to add a chapter on how reading is a stress reliever and how it increases vocabulary, and I'm going to structure the documentary more efficiently. Finally, we have my goals for the future and how editing and journalism apply to them. I want to find the next generation defining series, I want to secure the movie rights, and I want to produce the movie and affect thousands of lives during the process. I love movie production and I love reading, and I think being able to produce a movie that is an adaptation of a book that I'm passionate about, it'll just be so much more than a director who stumbled upon the script or who stumbled upon the book. And if I can be there with the author throughout the entire process, that would just be so cool. I want to create another community like the Hunger Games or like Harry Potter or like Divergent, in which no matter how old you are, you can always relate to the characters. So I'm going to accomplish this goal with a quote by William Shakespeare in mind. Destiny is no matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for, it is a thing to be achieved. And typically one might not think that editing and journalism would go together, even though they're both in the English literature field. But I believe that with this quote in mind and with the idea that I create my own path and I create my own destiny, that I can combine these two efficiently and make something unique and that hasn't been seen before. Thank you for your attention. Woo.